Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today for the AIME Women's Mortgage Network's Growth Series. This series is designed to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. I hope everyone is enjoying our growth series. We are going to continue to bring you guests from the outside of the industry that can teach us lessons, experts from the mortgage world that can share their insights. And we'll have Women's Mortgage Network member panelists that will share their learnings and their views. This week, I am so excited because we have one of our industry's leaders, AIME's very own EVP of Strategy, Katie Sweeney. We are going to discuss the value of being adaptable and how to lead during a time of adversity. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited. I've been watching this for the last month or so. I was bothering our team on when I could get on to chat with you more. So I'm pumped that we're finally here.
Well, we were just waiting for you to arrive, and we have to definitely give you this topic because, you know, over the last few months, we all have gone through so many changes. And during this time, all of us as leaders, as originators, as business owners, and also as individuals, we've all gone through so much change. Tell us a little bit, what have you seen and what recommendations do you have for the women and ladies out there that kind of has gotten you through this and, you know, some insight into that?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know me, I actually live in Dallas, but I work up in Philadelphia with the rest of the team at AIME. So for me, the biggest change during this time has just been the lack of schedule that I'm used to, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm used to being on the road every single week. I have my routine down. I know when I'm flying in. I know when I'm flying out. It's very scheduled. So I know exactly how to make the most of my time in each of those locations. And so with so much uncertainty around travel and trying to limit it as much as possible, and then even getting to the point where certain travel wasn't an option, it's been a huge shift, right? I remember actually I was home for, I think, almost 5 straight weeks, which was the longest stretch that I had been in Dallas in one single place in over 3 years, because not just with my time at AIME, but my role with Arrive as well. And then even prior to that, with the lender that I was with before, there was I was constantly going out and talking to people and meeting people and trying to understand how I could help solve their pain points. All of that was done face to face. So there wasn't just the travel component. There was also a complete shift in how do you do your job and talk to people when you're used to being able to do it in person. I mean, Laura, you know, we bring people into Philadelphia to meet with us at AIME all the time. We would rather talk here, get in a room, whiteboard together, figure out how to solve problems, figure out how to identify things that we need to solve before they become critical issues down the road. It's tough to figure out how to shift that completely while you're throwing off your personal schedule and now you're throwing off your business routine. And it's a lot to handle. I think for me, the biggest thing was just taking a step back. I made a joke about it, I think to you before, where I said, I can be a little bit of a control freak. I have a hard time just letting go and saying, all right, I'm going to power through because I think I can figure it out. I think I can solve it. I can force my way into this. And about 2 weeks into quarantine, I said, all right, well, that's not going to work. So let's take a step back. Clearly what I'm doing is it's not going to be sustainable for however long all of this change lasts. And while we're trying to navigate the new normal. And so I stopped and I said, okay, what are the problems that I need to solve for myself? What are the problems that I'm starting to identify within my day-to-day? Let's baby steps. Okay, so if my issue is communication, I don't know how to go from speaking with people in a room with a whiteboard to talking via Zoom. That's the problem that I'm going to tackle this week. So week 1, it was figuring out, how do I shift that style of communication? Do I need to be more thorough with the emails that I'm sending out? Do I need to be more available for quick? We use Slack here internally. So for a Slack call really fast where you can jump on and screen share quickly. Can I get a whiteboard ordered from Amazon fast enough?
Or find a digital one somehow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There has to be an app for that somewhere. there, right?
There has to be. You know, I'm a writer though. Like I need to write things down for them to stick in my brain. I'm not one of those millennials that can like keep track of tasks on my phone. Like I got to cross it out when it's done. So, but yeah, I was just identifying like, okay, let's take this in chunks. What is the biggest problem that I'm having right now and how can I solve it? And then I had my team start doing the same thing where I said, okay, this week, one process. What is one thing that's causing an issue every single week for you that takes too much time? It's a drain on resources. It's something that you just don't, it feels like there's a lot of friction. And each week, every person on the team picked one thing to focus on to resolve before the week was over. And now we obviously had all of our, standard daily responsibilities that we needed to kick out, but it allowed us to take a step back and say, okay, let's not be overwhelmed by everything. You've got the 80% of your time that's dedicated to your normal responsibilities. And then 20% of the time should be identify something that's causing friction in this new environment and let's find a way to resolve it. And we just chipped away at it week over week. And it adds up fast.
And I love that, Katie. And although, yes, right now we're all dealing with coming out of quarantine and changes like that, but adaptability and being able to navigate through change is a muscle that we all need to get stronger at, right? Regardless of what's happening in the world. So let's break down a couple of things that you said there. First thing you said is, I had to realize that I had to give up a little control.
Yep.
I had to recognize, and I think all of us want to control everything. I think that's just the nature in the mortgage business is we're going to try to control everything. It's going to fit in that box and we're going to make it happen. But we have to realize that life, the biggest thing is, when do we learn the most? We learn the most when we're stretching outside of what we normally do. Okay. So first thing is, let's give up a little of that control. The second thing you said, which is so important, you said, let's break it down.
Yeah.
Don't try to climb the whole mountain. Don't try to accomplish everything. Just take one particular thing. You mentioned communication. Let's actually focus in on that. What do you think is the most important thing about communication when you're going through a period of major change or crisis or both together?
Yeah, for me, I think it's honesty. I think a lot of times people avoid conflict. They like to sugarcoat things because it's easier than having a hard conversation. And I don't mean conflict negatively. Conflict doesn't have to be bad, right? Conflict is it's a conversation that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Both people aren't on the same page, and we've got to kind of power through. All right, you're saying this, I'm saying this, we're on different sides here. How do we find the middle ground? And that can be really hard because people have different communication styles. Some are very open. Some are very led by their emotions. Some people are very pragmatic and very rational. There are some people who come across really short and feel like they're being dismissive when in reality, they're trying to be concise. And so I think empathy is really important in something like this, and stopping and saying, I actually just had this conversation with somebody on my team today where I said, all right, you're interpreting this message. I interpreted it a completely different way. So is there a chance that maybe your own perspective is kind of being interjected on what somebody else said? Like, do we really think they meant it that abrasively, or is it just a statement? And I think being able to stop and take a step back and say, okay, the person who said that, when it ruffled my feathers, is it because I have an issue with them, or is it because they meant it in a way that was supposed to be short and condescending? And most of the time it's the former, not the latter, right? It's just, that's how they talk. So I think empathy and understanding that people have different communication styles is really important. Trying to put yourself in their shoes to say, all right, they're not just being 1 and 2 sentence responses with me. That's how they are with everyone. Okay, then that's just how they speak. And maybe let's back it up. Let's not get offended so quickly. But then, like I said, I think it's just not shying away from those tough conversations. When you can't be face to face, it can become really easy to avoid or evade when there is a problem that needs to be addressed. And so continuing to have those conversations and be really honest and just say, even if it's being honest about a communication challenge, right? Being able to stop and say, hey, Laura, here's the thing. I want us to be partners. I want us to work together really well. But when you send 1 or 2 sentence email responses, it feels like you're being dismissive. That's how I'm interpreting it. I don't think that's what you mean, but if you could maybe put a little more context into your responses, it would help me fill in the gaps. Usually Laura's going to hear that and say, oh crap, I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Right.
More. Exactly. So I think empathy and honesty are the 2 things that I try and put into every conversation. That, like, it's not always going to be easy, but I'm always going to try and understand where you're coming from or what your communication style is. And I think that's something that we can all carry back into our day-to-day as well, right? Not just when there's a crisis in place, because both of those things are important when you're in the middle of a crisis or in the middle of a major change. But they're also super valuable skills to have just in your normal work environment where there isn't as much mounting pressure as I think everyone's felt over the last months.
100%. And you're 100% accurate that a lot of times it's whatever glasses we're wearing. So at that moment, when you receive that email, if you're wearing the glasses of, I'm very stressed, I just, got into an argument with someone or something didn't go exactly the way I anticipated it, you're probably going to interpret that a little different than, oh my goodness, I just brought a family home and I feel great and I got to clear the clothes. So of course, whatever you're wearing at that moment, that's how you view that. Yeah. So when you're going through change, do you feel you should be communicating more? Should you be communicating the same? Should you be using different styles of communication if you are working through a time of change?
I think more communication is always better, right? I mean, now I say that, I do genuinely feel more communication is better, but I do also think it needs to be the right kind of communication. So I think, again, going back to being very honest about what's happening, what's occurring throughout the day, providing updates regularly. I am not a micromanager. I never will be. That has come to bite me in the tush before, right? Where I wasn't keeping a close enough eye on people, but it's just not my style. So for me, the more updates my team is providing, even just quick one line like, hey, heads up, this contract's not going to be done until Friday. Cool. I don't necessarily need to respond to that, but now I don't need to ask a bit later. That's always really helpful. Where I think sometimes we fall into a trap, at least from what I've seen the last couple of months, is over communicating or over meeting, scheduling so many things that you it's just you're oversaturating the conversation because you have it so many times because you want to communicate so much that communication still needs to be relevant. So I think providing updates, providing consistent insight, making sure that the people on your team know what's going on, but also at the same time ensuring that if it's not just a one-line email or a one-line Slack or a Google Hangout or a Teams message, if you're going to schedule a meeting, make sure the meeting is worthwhile. You don't want to communicate so much that you wind up taking away time from actually completing your job, right? And doing the process. I think sometimes we want to, everyone's in the loop on everything all the time and have such a collaborative environment. And we definitely do that here, where we've got to stop it and step back and say, okay, are all of these meetings really necessary? Can this be condensed? Can we cut this down? Is there a way for us to be more efficient in how we're providing updates? So as an example, throughout quarantine, we used to have, and still do, daily stand-ups every morning. Well, daily stand-up with 20 to 25 people can be 40, 45 minutes really fast, right? You get a couple questions and things kind of veer off path, and all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, you haven't accomplished anything for the day. And our meetings start our day. So it's the very first thing that we do in the morning. So we looked at it and said, all right, is this the best way for us to get updates on what everyone's doing? Probably not. So we installed an app in Slack that actually, it's a bot that asks everybody every morning, what's your focus for the day? So now the leadership can go through and just scan and make sure, all right, that all adds up. Anybody have any problems? No. Okay, we're good. And now our stand-ups are 5 to 10 minutes with any critical updates to the company. And that's it. We're ready to roll. So evaluating and ensuring that your communication is relevant and it's efficient is just as important as making sure that you're communicating enough. There's got to be balance in the middle.
Absolutely. That's great. And I will tell you, Katie, you know that, I speak to lots of brokers all the time. And I will tell you, on behalf of being a wholesale lender, part of, the AIME group here, kudos to what you guys have done during this craziness of a time. I mean, you know that when I saw everything changing within our industry, when you guys stepped up to make sure that you were providing all of this valuable information, whether Anthony was out there with his whiteboard or whether Barry Habib was out there speaking about what was going on in the market, and just one after another of keeping everybody together. And on behalf, I mean, I hear it all the time from the brokers saying, Laura, back in 2008, we were in a silo. We were by ourselves. No one was telling us anything. We were just told it's all your fault and good riddance to you. But not this time. This time it's we're one, we're together, we're part of a community. And I want to give a shout out to everything that your organization has done, because I hear it all the time. And I can speak for being one of the lenders that's part of AIME. I mean, that very first night, when I was able to get on a call with Anthony at 8:30 at night with all the wholesale lenders that are part of AIME, and we were able to speak about, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are your concerns? That was like a weight lifted off my shoulders to be part of that. So the way that you guys as a whole are handling how to communicate and how to get through a crisis or change and work together, kudos. Because you guys literally are not only speaking it, you're executing.
We're doing it. And I think Laura, that's such an important thing that I want to hammer home with anybody who has a chance to watch this. It's the same concept applied in different ways. So it does not matter how big or small your organization is or what your role is within that company. We're talking about on the national scale of saying the exact same thing. Make sure when you're communicating, you're doing it consistently, but every time that you do it, you're providing something valuable. We're not getting every lender that's a part of AIME on the phone to have 4, 5, 6, 7 of those calls, because that's not relevant. There's a certain amount of information that's relevant to exchange amongst all of those parties who are important and definitely a critical component of that conversation. And then once we saturated that, it was good, right? Same thing with the Facebook Lives that we're doing for everyone. We got as much information as we could out when it was relevant. And as soon as the changes stopped coming through every day, we weren't forcing communication every day. We pulled back to say, okay, we're going to take your time needs to be really well spent. And we need to make sure that we're giving you something valuable. It's the exact same concept when it comes to your internal communication with your company. Do it consistently, do it concisely, but when you do it, make sure that it's valuable to all of the people who are involved. And if you do that, you're going to be more efficient, not just in a time of adaptation, but just in general, breaking it down and always thinking, is this valuable? Am I adding value to every person who is in this conversation, whether it's an external audience or an internal team meeting? And if the answer is yes, it's a meeting you should have, and it's a communication you should keep. As soon as that answer becomes no, you need to reel it back.
Absolutely. All right, Katie, I have to ask.
Oh,
all excited here. We know that AIME Fuse is on in September.
Yep.
So I want to know, how are you pulling off AIME Fuse? Is it going to be the same? What's the changes? How did you have to adapt for this upcoming year?
Okay, talk about adapting. Anyone who's been to Fuse before knows, anybody who's been to an AIME event before knows, we don't do things unless we feel like we can do it the best, right? I mean, our events are something we try to continue to expand and grow on. Every single event that we have, we want it to be better than the last one. And that goes for regional events, right? When we left AIME last fall and then went into AIME Activate in the spring, we wanted Activate to be better than Fuse, even though it was regional, right? We want everything to continue to grow on the last experience that somebody had with us. So we had a lot of really big plans for Fuse this year. And unfortunately, with everything that's happening, we've got to kind of scale that back a little bit, but it's also forcing us to ask ourselves this question again of, what are the things that can provide value right now to people? So let's strip away all of the additional kind of the flair that goes along with it. What stuff can we make sure? What do we have to make sure that we provide so that every single person who attends can walk away feeling like it was worthwhile? And so we've got restrictions from the hotel on how many people can attend. We've got kind of a moving target with the company that helps set up the event, right? So if you've planned an event before, you know there's the hotel where you have it, but then there's a different company usually that actually helps you execute within those couple of days. So they've got their own restrictions on how far apart booths need to be, which is now changing the number of sponsors and exhibitors that we can have at the event, and trying to figure out how to pair what was going to be a completely live event with 3,000 plus people down to, all right, how are we going to do this kind of hybrid model? And can we do something? Can we even pull something off online? Not a knock on anyone, but virtual events are really tough, especially if you've never done them before. And that's for sure outside of our wheelhouse. So we've spent the last month trying to get up to speed on how do you even host a virtual event? And can we? Is this plausible? Is this something that we think we can even pull off in this amount of time? Is it worth just stripping Fuse back? So we've got a lot of contingency plans. We have, here's the plan for what we know right now. If we're able to have more people there face-to-face, which we won't know until maybe a month before the event, 6 weeks before the event is when the next change is supposed to hit in Las Vegas. So we've got a plan if that does happen, a best case scenario, and we get to have 50% capacity, and then worst case, if we're kind of where we're at right now in the 30 to 40% range, because that's currently kind of where we're being maxed out. And then just trying to shift our content to like what can be relevant. How do we change the schedule so that if you are watching from home, that there are breaks kind of built in that allow you to still have your normal day? Because it's tough. I mean, it's tough enough, but at least when you get people to come to a live event, they're more engaged because they're there, right? It's in person. When you're trying to do something virtually and there's the temptation of like, oh, let me just answer this one email, or let me just take this one bar or phone call, it gets a lot harder to hold people's attention for an extended period of time. So it's definitely something that we have been working through. I wouldn't say powering through. I think we're still kind of in those stages of, all right, we have some answers, but we don't have all the answers. But
that's part of change. That's part of adapting. Right? And I am confident. I've been at every AIME event, so I'm confident that whatever you guys do, I know it'll be at the highest level and it'll be wonderful. So I'm very confident of that. All right.
It's going to be different, but it's going to be really good.
Absolutely. All right, Katie, this has been so valuable. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you were able to join us today. So before we let you go, is there anything else that you want to share with our awesome ladies today?
Yes. So we AIME just released our very first ever top 100 broker rankings this past week. So for anybody who hasn't seen, I want to just quick congratulations to our top 100 brokerages, all of our winners of the AIME Broker Rankings Awards. And so you can find the full list on aimegroup.com. You'll see a lot of people kind of floating around and posting on social media over the next couple of days with their awards. But it's truly the first time we've ever looked at, production activity, how engaged brokers are with the wholesale community, and created an award system to highlight them. A lot of times it's kind of a pay to play situation out there with who wins awards and who doesn't. And so this is purely based off of their achievements and the things that they've been able to do. So super excited, really, really happy to be associated with so many of the brokerages that are on that top 100. They're all active members of AIME, which is amazing to see this kind of production volume coming out of so many of our members. So big congratulations to everybody who won that. And if you didn't, 2020s, we're halfway through. So it's time to get moving for next year.
Can't wait. That is awesome. Congratulations to everyone out there. That is fantastic. And thank you for AIME for providing that. That is wonderful. So happy to see. Okay, it is challenge time. Part of adaptability and leading change is stepping outside of our comfort zones. So because each time that we do this, we actually grow our adaptability muscle a little bit more. So this week, our challenge is we want you to do one thing that scares you. So post it in the Facebook group. Email me at laura@afrwholesale.com because I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to work with you on it and kind of be there for you as you're doing it. I love connecting with everyone out there. It really just brightens my day and makes me very happy. Okay, and on next week's show, we have a wonderful lady. And this lady, her name is Lydia Fennett. She is actually the author of The Most Powerful Woman in the Room Is You. Command Your Audience and Sell Your Way to Success. You definitely want to listen into this amazing lady. She has a great story and some great insights to share with you. So we look forward to seeing you next week. And as for this week, crush it, ladies. Hope you have a good one.